Teams are 2-4. In London, the Bears beat the Jaguars 35-16. It was Chicago's third straight win. The Packers are 4-2 after beating the Cardinals 34-13. The Colts outlasted the Titans 20-17. The Texans rolled past the Patriots 41-21. The Buccaneers with a big 51-27 win at New Orleans. The Eagles got by the Browns 20-16. Baltimore with a 30-23 win at home over Washington. The Chargers beat the Broncos 23-16. The Steelers with a 32-13 win at Vegas. The Lions pounded the Cowboys 47-9. The Falcons over the Panthers 38-20. Tonight, the 3-2 Bills visit the 2-3 Jets. Baseball NLCS Game 1, the Dodgers shut out the Mets 9-0.
Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
I was so excited when I heard the sandwich was back. What's up? This is Mike.
And this is Celia.
And a little thing we love about the Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich
is the symphony of flavors. You can always count on that crispy, tender, juicy chicken. It's so good.
My favorite part is the pimento cheese. Topped off with the honey, it all comes together perfectly. I like the original.
I like the spicy chicken fillet. But either way,
you're getting a winner.
The Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich is back with a bite. Try it with the original or spicy filet, now for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
No way football is played in the fall and winter
because the hits don't hurt as much when you're numb. Get the lowdown on all the sports action coming up right here.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
A new week begins live right here on a Monday on Football Full Circle all across the SportsGrid Radio Network and Sirius XM Channel 159. He is Joe Lisi, the mastermind of the pigskin, and I am Ben Stevens. And Joe, this is why people tune into FFC in the SportsGrid Radio Network. For Mondays like today, after a monumental football weekend, week 6 of the NFL Sunday slate, week 7, and a great one in college football ahead of a huge Monday night football game on this Monday to end out week 6 inside MetLife Stadium between the Jets and the Bills. This is a football weekend that we recap for you on FFC and set the stage for a huge Monday night showdown to end out week 6.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, the games on Saturday night in college went right down to the wire. They lived up to the billing, Ben, in regards to that, and it really carried through to yesterday's action. We saw Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson square off, another great game. We saw Cleveland get off the mat, push Philly to the limit, and then the beatdowns in the 4 o'clock window. Detroit looking like potentially one of the best teams in the NFC, and then Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. But tonight's game, win, lose, draw, no matter what happens for the New York Jets, there's going to be a ton of talking points surrounding Aaron Rodgers and the Jets moving forward for the rest of the 2024 season.
No doubt, Joe. The stakes of tonight's game, monumental. And with all of the drama that has followed the New York Jets, either on or off the field, everything is magnified on this Monday night in East Rutherford, New Jersey, between the Jets and the Bills. We'll get to Monday night in just a moment, but let's start by diving through the Sunday slate in week number 6. And Lisi Guy, let's start with that game during the afternoon hours in Dallas. Detroit goes into the Star and dismantles the Cowboys. 47-9, the victory for the Lions. Detroit easily covers as a 3-point road favorite. Highest total of the weekend at 52.5. Does go over, but only because of Detroit. Jared Goff, 315 yards, 3 touchdowns. Both David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs have a huge day. Meanwhile, for Dallas, a $178, 2 picks out of Dak Prescott in the Cowboys, Joe, who entered this season on a 16-game, home regular season win streak have now dropped all 3 games at AT&T Stadium this year. They're winless, 0-3 both straight up and against the spread. Detroit destroys Dallas on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, and I think it was Jerry Jones' 82nd birthday yesterday, so that wasn't too happy either, right? Here's the thing, Ben, and we talked about it throughout the regular, the week leading up to this matchup, is that Jared Goff and Detroit, they had the opportunity to knock off Dallas last year. They lose it 21-20. We know about the coaching blunder, you can argue, and the questionable call with Detroit with Dan Campbell. And if they got up in this game, I said it, that they would look to make a statement and showcase that last year they should have won it, right? They had the hotter quarterback, Jared Goff, 315 yards yesterday. Entering that game, he completed 18 of 18 for 250 plus against Seattle. And the biggest question, forget the turnovers in the deck. We can always get into that, right? But this defense for Dallas, forget Micah Parsons. That secondary got torched by Daniel Jones, where they grinded out a 20-15 win. They have many holes that, Mike Zimmer has failed to answer on the defensive side of the ball. And you can say Dak can't win a big game, and rightfully so. But this team misses Dan Quinn because that Washington defense is getting better week after week.
And Joe, what's so fascinating about Dallas this year, they haven't even been close at home. They gave up 44 to the Saints. They trailed 28-3 to Baltimore early in the second half before they made the game look respectable when we know it really was not. They are 0-3 against the spread. And you might be thinking, well, they've lost 3 games. They were probably the favorites in all 3. No, they've been the home underdog in 2 of those 3 games and still can't even cover a number. But Joe, of course, with the Detroit dominance, there was some bad news for the Lions yesterday. A broken tibia is the medical diagnosis for Aiden Hutchinson, one of the star edge rushers in the National Football League. A gruesome and significant lower leg injury. His season is done in 2024. He had to undergo emergency surgery yesterday before even flying back to the Motor City. We had the Pro Football Doc, Dr. David Chow, on the early line earlier, Joe. He said he should be fully recovered. This is not an injury that is going to plague the rest of his career, but that's not going to happen at least until the start of the 2025 NFL season.
Yeah, wishing the best. You never want to see a star player or any player, for that matter, go down. That's the risk of playing at an elite level in terms of the NFL. We joke around about the play for a lot of these players, but you never want to see them in terms of personal injury or risk their career or their health moving forward. So, obviously this is a dent for that front seven because they are pretty good in run support, getting after the passer as well. How do they adjust from a defensive game plan moving forward? We have to see. And he's an emotional leader, right? He's a young player, third-year player. He won over the locker room. We saw it on Hard Knocks, and just wish him the best. But, that's part of the game, and I do feel that Dan Campbell and that staff will do their best to at least make up for his absence, and we'll see how it plays out. They're playing as good as Baltimore and any team in the NFL right now.
And Joe, you mentioned maybe the best team in the NFC, at least as of this moment, plus 480 as Detroit improves to a 5-1 record. The 49ers, with a big win on Thursday night to start off week 6, still that favored team at plus 330. And the 49ers still probably have the best outlook when fully healthy, but so far through 6 weeks, I'm not sure anybody has looked better than the Lions. Well, if you wanted to make an argument about that, how about the NFC North in general? Detroit is 5-1. Minnesota a bye this weekend, but one of 2 remaining undefeated teams at 5-0. Both the Packers and the Bears winning big on Sunday. Everybody in the NFC North is 4-2 or better. So, Joe, let's talk that division. Green Bay, 5.5-point favorite at home against the Arizona Cardinals. The Packers win big, 34-13. They force 3 fumbles. They recover all 3. 17 takeaways for this Green Bay defense through 6 games. Multiple turnovers forced in every game this year for the Packers. They have won 2 straight. They're 4-2. They have covered in all 4 wins. The Pats certainly on track, Joe, to be an NFC contender again.
Yeah, they are. And, when Jordan Love came back, he was about 3/4 of ring rust against Minnesota. And then he puts up 389 and almost led the upset of Minnesota in Lambeau a few weeks ago. They grind out a victory in the second half against LA. They trailed that game at half 14-7 or 13-7 with the interception. But they have been very good. Forget the offense for a second. Again, this started last year. Everybody said, Green Bay's defense was suspect. When Jordan Love put on that, 7 of 10 games where they won, their defense was forcing turnovers. Their defense forced turnovers last year against Dak and against San Francisco in the divisional round. They almost moved on because the defense was getting better. Now they're opportunistic. I really like this team, Ben. I know they don't have a perfect record, but if we're talking right here, right now, I still think they're the most lethal team in the NFC. We can, split hairs between Detroit and, San Francisco. My team is Green Bay, and the fact that Jordan Love is healthy is a main reason why.
Plus 850, the Packers, the fifth best price in the NFC as a whole. The Vikings, third best number at 6-1. Jordan Love, 4 touchdown passes yesterday. Sure, an interception as well, but all 4 touchdown passes. Romeo Doubs back in the action. 2. Christian Watson had 1, as did Jaden Reed. We'll go across the pond to London as the Bears look really good against Jacksonville. What's ahead for Doug Peterson in Duval County as the Jags remain abroad? That remains to be seen in a couple of crucial matchups from the Sunday slate. Next on Football Full Circle.
Ball is coming.
Don't look like an idiot at work. Know your stuff. Football and everything else.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
President Biden toured areas of Florida ravaged by the back-to-back hurricanes Sunday.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg.
Biden announced $612 million for 6 Department of Energy projects in the Southeast. 2 of the projects are focused in Florida and will provide a combined $94 million in federal funds, according to the White House. Hurricane Milton made landfall in Florida as a Category 3 storm on Wednesday evening. At least 16 people were killed in the storm and over 1 million remain without power. A man was arrested outside of former President Donald Trump's campaign rally in Coachella, California Saturday after deputies assigned to a routine security checkpoint found him traveling with a loaded shotgun, handgun, ammunition, and several fake passports. The Secret Service said in a statement Sunday that the incident did not impact protective operations and that Trump was not in any danger. Upon his arrest by local police, the man made no threats aimed at Trump, and federal investigators have found no threatening material targeting Trump.
I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
In business, service is everything. Cintas delivers what you need to better serve your customers. Whether it's freshly laundered work apparel for almost any job imaginable, tested and inspected fire protection systems, first aid and safety supplies, on-site AED training, or mops and restroom products, stocked and ready when you need them. Better work days happen together. So visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Extravagant, luxurious, lavish. The $7 Lux Cravings Box from Taco Bell satisfies all your crunchiest, cheesiest, sauciest cravings. Indulge in a beefy 5-layer burrito, chicken chalupa supreme, Doritos Locos Taco, and chips and a drink for an unluxurious price. It's Lux for less. Get yours today at Taco Bell. At participating Taco Bell stores for a limited time only while supplies last. Price and participation vary. Drinks excludes freezes. Tax extra.
Fall is almost here.
It's time to stow the lawnmower and get ready for all that glorious action coming your way. Stay tuned to SportsGrid for all the strategies, angles, and info you need to get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on FFC, it is Football Full Circle. One final game to end out Week 6 of this NFL season. And then after this monumental Monday night at MetLife, the first third, Joe, of the 2024 NFL campaign has come to a close. So when all 4 teams in the NFC North are at least 2 games above 500 or better, you got to take stock. That includes the Chicago Bears, who have won now 3 straight games. Their first away from Soldier Field yesterday, early across the pond over in London. The Bears absolutely trouncing the Jaguars 35-16. Caleb Williams throws for 4 passing touchdowns, the most by a rookie quarterback in history for this Bears franchise. Chicago has scored 5 offensive touchdowns in back-to-back weeks for the first time since 1956. And the Bears look like a legitimately good team, Joe, with a 4-2 record covering in all 4 wins. Yesterday, slight underdog in London against Jacksonville.
Yeah, I've been very critical of Caleb, and you know what? I'll dial it back slightly. He's playing well. He's starting to progress. You know, I wanted to see them win on the road or on a neutral field, and they did just that against a team that had their backs against the wall, needed to win that game, and were very good in terms of success playing in London, right? So to dominate the game the way they did, to see Caleb not just throw the football, he made some critical runs, extending plays with his legs in terms of tucking it. That's showing that he's understanding the scheme. He's getting more confident in the system, and that's a great thing. And I'll say this too. That rushing attack, Roschon Johnson, an under-the-radar back from Texas, was a great pickup. But DeAndre Swift too. I mean, this is what we saw DeAndre Swift in the early games last year for Philadelphia when they went on that 10-1 record. He's a great addition. He's not that old of a running back. I mean, DeAndre Swift is really living up to the billing as being one of the top running backs when he was selected back 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, he signed that 3-year, $24 million deal with the Bears this offseason. First 3 weeks looked absolutely abysmal. He had 114 scrimmage yards, did Swift, in the first 3 games for Chicago. In total, combined, that is the overall output in the first 3 games. He has gone over that number. He has had more than 114 scrimmage yards in each of the last 3 games for Chicago. 91 yards on the ground, a touchdown yesterday, 28 more through the air. He has been a revelation. They are protecting Caleb Williams more. He has 7 touchdowns to only 1 INT in the 4 wins for Chicago this season. So the Bears are 4-2. The Packers are 4-2. The Lions are 5-1. The Vikings are 5-0. By the way, the division odds now once again available on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Detroit and Minnesota co-favorites at plus 140, but the Packers and the Bears plus 550 and plus 950 as well. Not out of the running, certainly not yet. Joe, as we focus on another rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels, yesterday in Baltimore, a huge matchup in the DMV. The Ravens and the Commanders, 2 teams that are now both 4-2. The Flock has won 4 straight games. That's Baltimore. They snapped the 4-game win streak of Washington yesterday. The Ravens do cover as a 6.5-point home favorite in Baltimore. Second highest total of the weekend, 51.5, does sky over as well. And although, Joe, the Commanders lost by a touchdown and trailed by multiple scores in the 4th and final quarter, it was a really good football game. What did we learn about both of these teams yesterday in Baltimore?
Well, for me, let's start with Baltimore. I've been saying it when they ripped off those 3 straight wins. The fact that offense now puts up another 30 spot, they are playing as good as anybody. Minnesota, Detroit, you name it. Any team that you want to throw in there from an offensive perspective, Baltimore looks like a legit contender now with Derrick Henry, who scored yet again, Lamar doing it on the ground and through the air, and that defense being opportunistic enough in certain spots to win matchups, right? Forget the 2 losses. You could make the argument they should have been 2-0 to start the year. Right now, they are peaking at an elite level. Can they continue that? Obviously, is the biggest question. They're legit. Right. In my opinion, I put them right there in the AFC as the best team. I do put that because of who they beat. Washington and how good Washington has been. Buffalo, Cincinnati with their backs against the wall. They're legit to me. On the flip side, for Washington, we saw Jaden Daniels, 269, 2 touchdowns. He added another 22 on the ground. They were without Brian Robinson. They didn't give up. This team, even though they lost, they're a legitimate contender for a wild card. I don't know about NFC East. I'm not going to tag that in year number one with Jaden Daniels. But Dan Quinn has this team fighting much different than Ron Rivera. They're not quitting. They're playing it out. The defense is still keeping them in games. I don't know, Ben. I think forget the 2-1 price that they were for the NFC. This is a legitimate wild card that even if they were 500, I believe enough in them the rest of the way to make a run.
Yeah, I think it's hard to knock that, Joe. I think a lot of people looked at yesterday in a step-up spot, perhaps, for the Commanders. Not that their 4 wins in a row came over slouches, but just a step-up spot, right? Nearly a touchdown dog on the road, albeit in Baltimore. And I think if you were to look at a 7-point defeat and a non-cover by the hook, you might say, hey, Washington doesn't really have it. Not the sense if you watched that football game. And again, Jaden Daniels, better than a 77% completion percentage this year, leads the NFL, 269 yesterday, 2 touchdowns. The issue for the Commanders, he was the leading rusher with 22 yards on the ground. Baltimore, best rushing defense in the NFL, but allowing some points this year. Meanwhile, Lamar Jackson, 20 of 26, 323, yes, a pick, but a touchdown. Zay Flowers looks solid. Rashad Bateman is healthy and playing productive football. Mark Andrews finds pay dirt for the first time this year. But, Joe, when you think about the Ravens and you think about the offensive scheme, this 4-game win streak has provided it. Yesterday, Derrick Henry, 24 carries, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. He has scored multiple touchdowns twice in this 4-game span. He has scored in every game. He's got 7 total touchdowns. He has rushed for at least 96 yards. That's Ravens football.
It is, and when Derrick Henry rushes for 132, opens up everything else. They're worried about the run. There you go with the play action.
Plenty more to get to from the NFL Week 6 Sunday slate, including primetime football at MetLife. That's next here on Football Full Circle.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
Chris Chambliss has won the American League pennant.
1976, Chris Chambliss' 9th-inning walk-off home run gives the Yankees the pennant over the Kansas City Royals in Game 5 of the ALCS.
To win a championship during that season was just the thrill of a lifetime.
After a 12-year absence, the Bombers returned to the Fall Classic, but were swept by the Big Red Machine. For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
North Carolina State University researchers have discovered the secret of the fastest jumping backyard bug on Earth, the tiny globular springtail. It doesn't fly, bite, or sting, but with a tiny spring-loaded fork appendage under its abdomen to avoid predators, man, can it jump! Jumping 60 times its body length and spinning at 368 RPM, it can only be seen by high-speed cameras. This may be helping possible nightmare fuel research at Cornell. They're building swarms of autonomous AI-powered 3D printed quadruped insects powered by microscopic internal combustion engines. Follow me at Capalbo on X and stay tuned to the Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Carver and Lisi.
I should be the coach of the Jets. First thing I would do, I said it yesterday, make the place kickers and punters run suicides. They lose you more games than they win you. I go right up to Aaron Rodgers, I grab him by the face mask, bring him right down. This is my team, not yours. Seriously, somebody needs to step on a sport and wake his ass up.
It's Carver and Lisi with Mike Carver and Joe Lisi. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. On the SportsGrid Radio Network. Wherever you go,
there you are.
Download the SportsGrid mobile app and we'll be right there with you.
So now you can get the winning edge
anywhere, even while the wife's talking to you.
if you've got an earbud.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle, it is FFC. Lisi Guy entering Sunday Night Football. It might have not appeared to be the best primetime game to end out a Sunday slate. On paper, it was the 1-4 Bengals visiting the 2-3 Giants in MetLife. Now both teams are 2-4, and it wasn't exactly the prettiest game we have ever seen. The Bengals win 17-7. Cincy covers as a 3.5-point road favorite in East Rutherford. The Giants, without Malik Neighbors or Devin Singletary, unable to muster up a ton of offense. It was tied at 7-all in the third quarter. The Bengals pulled away from there. It was really Joe Burrow with a 47-yard rushing touchdown early in the opening quarter. That was the key offensive play for Cincinnati. But, Joe, the Bengals needed to win this game to get to 2-4. Taking advantage of an AFC that does not look nearly as competitive right now as maybe it did in at least what we anticipated before the season. The Bengals got it done. They win by 10. They win by double digits. They cover as a 3.5-point road favorite against the Giants.
Yeah, I was wrong on this game. I actually thought that the Giants were the side, Ben, because I didn't know what to expect offensively and defensively out of Cincinnati because of how they lost that game against Baltimore. Were they going to be checked out? Were they going to view it as the season being over? Was Jamar Chase going to be like, you know what? Why risk it? I didn't get my money. And same thing with T. Higgins. But they found a way to grind it out. I still have concerns, Ben, about Cincinnati big picture, because I think unless this team is like 5-4 or 6-4, you can't say, okay, they're dialed in. If they could scratch the 500, maybe, but that's a tough ask. But that aside, I thought this was more about the lack of consistency for the New York Giants. This was a perfect opportunity, just like Dallas, 0-2 at home, to get back to 500, build off of Daniel Jones the past couple of weeks, 250 plus. And we saw the same old Giants, right? They trailed 7-0. They couldn't get out of the way. They were never in it or showed any type of continuity in regards to the offensive philosophy. And you know what? I thought it was a poor game plan by Brian Dable overall. They had an opportunity to kick a dog when it was down, and not seriously, but just from the phrase aspect, right? But they didn't do it, and now they're 0-3 at home. They win on the road. They can't win at home. That's terrible by Dable.
Yeah, and Daniel Jones wasn't great last night. 22 of 41, 205, no touchdowns, and an interception. Multiple passing touchdowns and 0 INTs for Daniel Jones in each of the Giants' first 2 wins this year. That needs to be better. Joe, I look forward to seeing what the Bengals' playoff price is when those numbers are back available. The Bengals at 16-1. Tied for the 5th best price in the AFC, but there's a very large drop-off from KC, Baltimore, and then Houston and Buffalo, both at plus 550 to where the rest of the conference is. The good news for Cincy, after an 0-3 and 1-4 start, there's still only 6 teams right now in the AFC, and that includes Buffalo at 3-2, entering Monday Night Football, that have a winning record. If the Jets win tonight, we'll only have 5 teams above 500 in the conference. That's something to be said.
Yeah, no, I was going to say Zach Taylor needs to hammer that home. That needs to be hammered home for this team, because that's the concern for me. Are they going to be checked out, or are they going to actually view the season as not lost and let's play it out and let's get back to a Super Bowl?
Right, and that's the key, Joe. There is the mentality that despite the kiss of death in an 0-3 start, the Bengals actually still have some life. Plenty of new quarterbacks getting a start yesterday. Some making their starting debut in the NFL, others back under center. But the theme among all 3, big losses. Drake May, the 3rd overall pick in 2024, made his first career start for the Patriots yesterday. There were some glimpses, but ultimately, Houston absolutely hammers the Patriots in Foxborough, 41-21. The Texans, Joe, easily cruising to a cover as a 6.5-point road favorite.
Yeah, one of my better picks for the weekend. I really liked Houston, and they had 2 secondary players out for that game. It didn't matter. You had a rookie quarterback, Drake May, with a lack of offensive weapons. Seeing what Houston did to Josh Allen the week prior, 30% completion percentage. It was an uphill battle. Right? And it's the same old Patriots. It's great to get Drake May experience, but let's be honest, you need playmakers. For Houston, legitimate contender, first win against the Patriots and in Foxborough ever.
Houston 5-1, but Joe, they hadn't really covered to start the year. They've covered in their last 2 wins. We'll go elsewhere around the Week 6 NFL Sunday slate. Up next on FFC.
The winning edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
NFL on Sunday, the Bengals beat the Giants 17-7. Both teams are 2-4. In London, the Bears beat the Jaguars 35-16. It was Chicago's 3rd straight win. The Packers are 4-2 after beating the Cardinals 34-13. The Colts outlasted the Titans 20-17. The Texans rolled past the Patriots 41-21. The Buccaneers with a big 51-27 win at New Orleans. The Eagles got by the Browns 20-16. Baltimore with a 30-23 win at home over Washington. The Chargers beat the Broncos 23-16. The Steelers with a 32-13 win at Vegas. The Lions pounded the Cowboys 47-9. The Falcons over the Panthers 38-20. Tonight, the 3-2 Bills visit the 2-3 Jets. Baseball NLCS Game 1, the Dodgers shut out the Mets 9-0.
Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Moments like hearing my cat purr good morning mean a lot to me. But after being diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, or MBC, which is breast cancer that is spread to other parts of the body, they mean even more. I take Ibrance, palbociclib.
Ibrance 125 milligram tablets with an aromatase inhibitor is for adults with HR-positive, HER2-negative MBC as the first hormonal-based therapy. Ask your doctor about Ibrance and visit Ibrance.com. Ibrance may cause low white blood cell counts that may lead to serious infections. Ibrance may cause severe inflammation of the lungs. Both of these can lead to death. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including trouble breathing, shortness of breath, cough, or chest pain. Before taking Ibrance, tell your doctor if you have fever, chills, or other signs of infection, liver or kidney problems, are or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding. Common side effects include low red blood cell and low platelet counts, infections, tiredness, nausea, sore mouth, abnormalities in liver blood tests, diarrhea, hair thinning or loss, vomiting, rash, and loss of appetite.
Days are getting cooler.
The shadows are getting longer. You know what that means?
It's football weather. So bundle up and keep it here for all the latest strategies and gridiron information.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on FFC. Joe, quickly as we touch on some of the quarterbacks that made their starting debuts or were back under center starting in a game for the first time this year. Drake May's final stat line, 20 of 33, 243 yards, 3 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. He was also New England's leading rusher with 38 yards on the ground, albeit sacked 4 times. There were some glimmers of optimism, I would say, for Drake May and New England. But this is just a Patriots team that is kind of going to play out this season as we expected. They had the best price, or at least the shortest number, to have the worst record in the NFL this year. After a season-opening upset in Cincinnati, they've lost 5 in a row. They're 1-5. What do you think the Patriots can expect out of May the rest of the way?
Well, again, you want to get him ready for year 2. If this is the quarterback of the future, you want him to develop. I want to see him actually be able to read coverage. Wins or losses, to me, don't matter. Obviously, if you're in a position to win a game, you want to do that. I'm not suggesting tanking. What I'm saying is I need to see Drake May open up the offense, throw the kitchen sink at him in regards to formations and ability to read coverages, and then allow him to develop. If we're just going to put him under center to hand the football off and win 13-10, that's not why you drafted this guy, right? He's not going to get better that way. He's only going to get better by trial, throwing him into the fire and throwing him into the mix. Forget the downside. He needs to develop, and that's a great opportunity to see what he has and then see where the weaknesses are ultimately for where they need to be in year number 2. Gerard Mayo's not going anywhere, so build the players around him in the draft and in free agency next year.
Yeah, absolutely so, Joe. There was a thought, perhaps, that New England could stay in this game because of a rookie quarterback. They would run the football a ton. Drake May was the leading rusher. He had 38 yards. Antonio Gibson, 13 carries for 19 yards, just 1.5 yards per carry. Houston forced 4 turnovers, 2 Drake May picks, a Drake May fumble, and another fumble as well. Again, the Texans 5-1. Elsewhere in the AFC South, a divisional duel in Nashville. The Titans somehow, some way, were a home favorite. Joe Flacco and Indianapolis go into Tennessee and get a win, 20-17. Joe, we're talking new starting quarterbacks. We'll get to Spencer Rattler and in New Orleans. We'll get to Aiden O'Connell in Las Vegas. There's got to be a new starting quarterback soon in Tennessee. Will Levis, 95 yards for a touchdown and a pick. It's just simply not NFL caliber.
No, it's not. And we, again, you and I talked about this in the draft class. He should have never even been mentioned in regards to an elite quarterback. He goes second in the second round, has not lived up to the billing. He's a backup quarterback, in my opinion, at best. But where are they going? You know, they have a new coach. They have new talent. The offseason moves to let Derrick Henry walk to Baltimore, bring in Tony Pollard made absolutely no sense. And they have aging wide receivers in DeAndre Hopkins outside. Calvin Ridley had no catches yesterday. How do you do that? I don't understand. Like, this is the free agent pickup. You don't even try to get him the football. What is going on, Ben?
Yeah, I don't know. He had 8 targets, Joe, and 0 grabs yesterday. I don't even know how that's possible, how it makes sense offensively for the Titans. All I know is it is bad in Tennessee, a 1-4 start. A 1-5 start for Cleveland. However, the Browns did cover yesterday in Philadelphia as an 8.5-point dog, losing 20-16 against the Eagles. Joe, Philly won the game, right? And I guess if you're taking the optimistic viewpoint, they got healthy out of the bye week. Jalen Hurts, more than 250 and 2 touchdowns. Both of those touchdown tosses to the returning receivers and A.J. Brown, who had 116 yards and a score. Devontae Smith, 64 yards and a touchdown. But maybe the least optimistic winning football team in the NFL is Philadelphia, 3-2, and it saw its head coach Nick Sirianni jawing with fans in the closing minutes of the game. It's a weird sentiment around this Birds organization right now.
It is, and that's why I don't like Philadelphia big picture. And I've said this, you know, I love Jalen Hurts, I love A.J. Brown, I love Devontae Smith, but I was never a backer of how that defense has looked. Now, they held, a team in Cleveland to 16 points, a team that could barely put up 13 against Washington and some of the others. I don't even know if that's good, right? You know, Deshaun Watson had 88 passing yards basically through 3 quarters, and they still almost lost the game. This team consistently plays down to a level of competition. They don't have the killer instinct. They get both of their star playmakers back. This is a team that was their 3rd straight road game, Ben. 3rd straight. Yeah. They had lost 3 straight. You're supposed to beat that team by double digits, and I mean bad, and they couldn't put them away. So, again, this is on Sirianni. This is on Kellen Moore. This is on Vic Fangio. This is on the coaching staff for not having that team ready and coming out of the bye week with the killer instinct. And it's unfortunate because I don't see this going any further. They're a one and done the way they play right now at 3-2 in the playoffs, if they get there.
Yeah, 4th best price to win the NFC at plus 750. Still the favorites to win the NFC East. But again, there's not a lot of hope right now. Philadelphia did score first, but they were held scoreless in the opening quarter. We were tied at 10 all at the break. This game was tied at 13 all under 10 minutes left in the 4th quarter. That shouldn't happen. The Browns, though, man, bad. 4 sacks allowed yesterday. They have given up 31. No other team has allowed more than 24 sacks this year. And Deshaun Watson for a 6th consecutive game, under 200 yards. I don't know what Cleveland does. It's not this, clearly. Joe, the other new starting quarterbacks that made their debuts either in their career or this season out on the field in a starting role yesterday. What a wild game in New Orleans. The Buccaneers started out by scoring 17 unanswered in the 1st quarter. Then New Orleans responds. They win the 2nd quarter 27-7 to take a 3-point lead at the break. And then in the second half, it's all Tampa. The Buccaneers score all 27 points in the second half. The rookie running back tandem of Sean Tucker from Syracuse University and Bucky Irving take over the game. Baker throws 3 picks, but 4 touchdowns and well over 300 yards. And the rookie Spencer Rattler did show his lumps as the Buccaneers win big, 51-27, easily covering as a 3.5-point road favorite.
Are we sure this game wasn't played in Norman in the Big 12? It looked like Oklahoma and Texas Tech shooting it out back in the day. They have a 17-0 lead. They fall behind. The Bucs do. They have a 27-24 deficit, and Baker Mayfield lights it up, right? You talked about Sean Tucker. The offensive line was playing at an elite level. Defense made adjustments. And again, I still think, the hurricane could have affected the preparation from a mindset perspective. But they found a way to grind it out. And they won dominant. Right? That's the difference. If you want to take a look at 2 teams, look at Tampa, look at Philadelphia. Philadelphia at home, that game was a 4th quarter game with the game on the line and the Browns inside the 5-yard line with less than 3 minutes left. And on the flip side, Tampa goes on the road, away from home, trailing by 3 and pulls away by 28 points. That's the difference between both teams right now. Todd Bowles, great job.
Yeah, listen, the Buccaneers, Joe, winning record right now. Crucial NFC South game after coughing up a good opportunity last week, short week, Thursday in Atlanta. Buccaneers, huge day. Sean Tucker, 14 carries, $136 on the ground, a touchdown, 56 receiving yards, and another score. Come on, it looks like Kyle McCord out there for Syracuse University. So Spencer Rattler, Joe, in his debut, 243 yards, a touchdown, but 2 interceptions. We'll talk Aiden O'Connell, the Raiders, in the rest of the Sunday slate next here on Football Full Circle before we preview Monday Night Football and a big one at MetLife between the Jets and the Bills. It's next, live right here on FFC.
Yeah, it's getting cooler. Football weather is here. Stay tuned for all the latest odds, strategies, and info. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
President Biden toured areas of Florida ravaged by the back-to-back hurricanes Sunday.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg.
Biden announced $612 million for 6 Department of Energy projects in the Southeast. 2 of the projects are focused in Florida and will provide a combined $94 million in federal funds, according to the White House. Hurricane Milton made landfall in Florida as a Category 3 storm on Wednesday evening. At least 16 people were killed in the storm and over 1 million remain without power. A man was arrested outside of former President Donald Trump's campaign rally in Coachella, California, Saturday after deputies assigned to a routine security checkpoint found him traveling with a loaded shotgun, handgun, ammunition, and several fake passports. The Secret Service said in a statement Sunday that the incident did not impact protective operations and that Trump was not in any danger. Upon his arrest by local police, the man made no threats aimed at Trump, and federal investigators have found no threatening material targeting Trump.
I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
In business, service is everything. Cintas delivers what you need to better serve your customers. Whether it's freshly laundered work apparel for almost any job imaginable, tested and inspected fire protection systems, first aid and safety supplies, on-site AED training, or mops and restroom products, stocked and ready when you need them. Better work days happen together. So visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Extravagant, luxurious, lavish. The $7 Lux Cravings Box from Taco Bell satisfies all your crunchiest, cheesiest, sauciest cravings. Indulge in a beefy 5-layer burrito, chicken chalupa supreme, Doritos Locos Taco, and chips and a drink for an unluxurious price. It's Lux for less. Get yours today at Taco Bell. At participating Taco Bell stores for a limited time only while supplies last. Price and participation vary. Drinks excludes freezers. Tax extra.
Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important. That's where we come in. SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week.
The winning edge.
It's your advantage to more winning more often. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle, it is FFC. Lisa Guy, Aiden O'Connell back under center for the Raiders yesterday. Did not matter. Pittsburgh goes into Vegas, wins big, 32-13. The Steelers cover as a 3.5-point road favorite. New starting quarterback in Las Vegas. Is there perhaps going to be a new starting quarterback in Pittsburgh moving forward? Well, on the ground yesterday, the Steelers very good against the Raiders. Najee Harris, 106 yards, a touchdown. Justin Fields, 59 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, but he throws for less than 150. Now, the Steelers do win. They're off to a 4-2 start. They cover as a 3.5-point road favorite. Total of 36.5 does go over. Lisa Guy, do you think Russell Wilson takes over to the starting job anytime soon?
No, I'll keep banging this drum. This is the third road game that Justin Fields has won. And you could say from a productivity standpoint, he didn't throw for a lot of yards, but he rushes for 2. That's part of the game as well. You're not getting that with Russell Wilson. You used to get that with Russell Wilson. You don't get that anymore. So people need to understand, hey, he's winning games. He's doing it at times with his arm. He's doing it with his legs on a consistent basis. He's avoiding the pass rush when the offensive line breaks down, and he's leading his team for wins. And he's won the locker room. What more do we want from this guy? I understand he's not Jaden Daniels. I understand he's not Pat Mahomes that could just flick it, and I get that. But he's an above-average quarterback that is leading his team. He understands and is developing in the system. Part of that is Arthur Smith as well. You can't tell me that the way Arthur Smith calls a game has no impact on Justin Fields' productivity, because we saw that with Des Ridder in Atlanta last year. Look at the difference with Kirk Cousins and a staff that wants to open it up. And look at last year with Arthur Smith that couldn't even utilize Bijan Robinson correctly. Stop, Steelers fans. This is your quarterback.
Lisa, I think you froze. At least your visual froze. We'll get back to that in just a second. We heard your take. I would agree. I think Justin Fields should be the starter. We will see, though. Russell Wilson back at practice. I wonder what the ceiling is for this Steelers team. Elsewhere, Lisa Guy, to round out the Sunday slate before we get to Monday, the Chargers off a bye week, a big win in Denver, 23-16, snapping a 3-game win streak for the Broncos in covering as a 3-point road favorite. Scary moment early in the game as Jim Harbaugh was dealing with some heart issues on the sideline, but did come back. Nothing appears to be serious. Jim Harbaugh in good spirits as his LA team wins a big AFC West divisional duel to get back above 500. Now 3-2 for the Bolts, 23-16 the win, over 35.5 as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's great when your quarterback is back and healthy, and Justin Herbert, that's always an added dimension to that offense. And it's a gutty win. That was a team that I actually thought Denver would step up, playing at home, winning 3 straight, and how they won it with defense, but they grind out another victory. And again, I don't know big picture, Ben, if the Chargers are legit, but they're they're developing a new scheme, right? He's instilling an intensity and a tenacity that Brandon Staley didn't have in regards to the offense and defensive lines. I don't know if it'll happen big picture year 1, but they're on that route. They're running the football consistently, playing better defense. And that's what Jim Harbaugh does. Again, good win, great, to cover the spread and get over the total. But again, I don't know if this is a legitimate wild card contender. I'm not buying in just yet.
Yeah, we'll see exactly, Joe, where this Chargers team is. But the Broncos fall back to an even 500. The Bolts a game above it. One of 6 teams right here, right now, with a winning record in the AFC. Who might join them based on this monumental Monday night at MetLife? With everything that has happened in the last 6 days for the New York Jets, it all comes to a head tonight. Robert Saleh dismissed on Tuesday. He was fired. Jeff Ulbrich named the interim head coach, the former defensive coordinator for New York. Nathaniel Hackett demoted. Todd Downing now calling plays, and all of the onus and pressure rides on the shoulders of a 40-year-old quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. Joe, this line has been working to the Jets side of things. It is now just a 1.5 spread in favor of Buffalo. It was 2.5 in favor of the Bills early in the week. 41.5 is the total. Joe, I don't think it's overblown to call this one of the most meaningful Monday Night Football games we have seen in week 6 in the history of the NFL, or at least here as of late. With all of the focus on the Jets, does New York deliver a huge win tonight?
No, I think they get blown out. I really do. I think the Bills, and blown out is a double-digit win, 10 or more in my opinion, right? When you're laying 2.5 on the road, if you win it, 5 times by that, it's a blowout. And I think Josh Allen breaks out. I think he's got a low number, 198.5, 197.5. I think he throws for 250. I know there's limited weapons. But I would much rather bank on Josh Allen rebounding after 2 subpar games than seeing the aging quarterback that wants to take and point the fingers at everybody else but himself and this interim staff. There's no way I could back that. So I do like the over. 40.5, 41.5. I think we get points because I think Josh Allen breaks out and forces Aaron Rodgers into an up-tempo type of game, and we'll see if they can do it.
You know what's really interesting, Joe? Total on the rise ever so slightly. Both teams under in 3 of 5 games so far this season. Buffalo has not looked great offensively the last 2 weeks. 20 points or less. Last week against the Texans, Josh Allen, 9 of 30. 9 of 30 for 131 yards. I will say this, though, Lisa Guy. 197.5 is his passing yards prop. That's almost like a must bet because of just how low the number is for Josh Allen. Meanwhile, for Aaron Rodgers, 213 and a hook. If the Jets do not get blown out, Joe, how good does Aaron Rodgers have to be?
I think he's got to be 225, 240, no turnovers. He's got to protect the football, and that is the biggest aspect. Plus, they need to run it. They haven't run it in 2 games.
No, they have not. Less than 2.8 yards per carry in their last 2. Not more than 64 yards on the ground in these 2 consecutive losses. It is a huge Monday Night Football game at MetLife. It was a significant Saturday in college football. The recap and review up next.
The boys of summer become the champions of fall.
The World Series is on its way.
And SportsGrid brings you every angle. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and SiriusXM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Money Line at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern. And Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi. Then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're going to love it, and you're going to love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. That's 800-797-1292.
Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7.
Get the winning edge.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
What a weekend it was in college football as we built the hype and the optimism for a huge Saturday in week number 7. It once again delivers. We start with the game of the year number 2. The first game of the year, the final Saturday in September in Tuscaloosa. Top 5 tilt between Georgia and Alabama. It came through. Saturday night inside Autzen Stadium, it was 2 versus 3, Ohio State and Oregon, and it delivered once again as well. The Ducks win 32-31 as it came down to the closing seconds. Joe, after a great night, frankly, in Eugene, the final 6 seconds is what most people will remember for Will Howard's performance against Oregon. As the time was running down, he takes off to run in slides after the clock hit zeros. Time ran out, and Ohio State's hope of a comeback also ran out with it. 32-31, Oregon wins outright as a field goal dog at home.
Yeah, I think, when you look at that game play out, people didn't think that Oregon could put up 32 points on that Ohio State defense, right? That was the one thing we talked about in the pregame, only allowing 6.8 points per game, less than 3 yards per carry, less than 70 rushing yards per game. The back end only giving up 125 passing yards, but they never saw a quarterback like Dylan Gabriel, right? We talk about his big game experience. He throws for 300. How about the touchdown run on the tuck? How about that? That just allowed the Ducks to take the fourth quarter lead. That was the biggest thing. And Dan Lanning had a defensive game plan that bent. They didn't break in the final seconds. Right. And ultimately, that's why they won a great football game all around. But credit Dan Lanning and that staff. I mean, they did have different wrinkles that we didn't see through the first couple of weeks of the regular season.
Yeah, Joe, I was questioning that Oregon front. I actually didn't think Ohio State ran it as well offensively as I anticipated. The Ducks holding the Buckeyes to only 4.3 yards per carry. Huge win for Oregon. Now Oregon and Ohio State, Big Ten co-favorites to win a conference crown. But, Lisi, that wasn't the only generational type game that we saw on Saturday. We saw 3 games go to overtime. Penn State and USC in the Coliseum. The Nittany Lions win 33-30. Tennessee and Florida on a Rocky Top. The Volunteers pull away 23-17. And how about the top 15 tilt in Death Valley? Night games in Tiger Stadium, they always match the occasion. Garrett Nussmeier, after a poor night, frankly, finds Kyron Lacey to walk it off for the Bayou Bengals. 29-26. LSU remains perfect in night games at home under Brian Kelly with a huge outright win as a 3.5-point underdog against Ole Miss.
And let me tell you, all 3 of those games were amazing. The biggest takeaway, all the dogs covered those games, right? The only one that won outright was, in fact, LSU as a home dog, and Ole Miss hasn't defeated LSU in Baton Rouge since 2008. But I'll say this, Ben. As good maybe as Nussmeier was, and he was a little turnover prone in regards to the early part of that game, that defense, we talked about it with Blake Baker, they are coming on. They are flying to the football, even without Harold Perkins. Quarterback pressures, quarterback sacks, takeaways. Keep an eye out for this defense because I'm telling you now, from what I saw, they are a legit SEC contender. And more importantly, a college football playoff contender. We should have jumped on that 250 on college football today. We really should have.
Listen, Joe, it's not a bad idea because now the number for LSU to make the college football playoff plus 150 down by $1. Only one loss for the Bayou Bengals. Still a pretty promising season ahead in Baton Rouge. Joe, how about a couple of teams that survived on Saturday, namely Alabama? How would they show the resolve against South Carolina? They barely did. Nick Harbor, a touchdown catch from Lenoris Sellers in the final 2 minutes, almost tied the game. South Carolina tries to go for 2. They are unable to convert, but an onside kick gives the Gamecocks life before a game-tying field goal misses wide right. Alabama survives, but comes nowhere close to covering, winning 27-25 against the Gamecocks, who do cover as a 3-touchdown dog.
Yeah, I mean, the lack of defensive consistency, biggest thing from Nick Saban and Kalen DeBoer. That was a South Carolina offense that put up 3 points against Ole Miss last week, and they pushed Bama to the limit in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, it was an interesting game to say the least. A huge Saturday ahead in the SEC. Alabama and Tennessee, Georgia and Texas, both winning this past Saturday as well. He's Joe Lisi. I'm Ben Stevens. Football Full Circle returns tomorrow, noon Eastern time on SportsGrid Radio.
Now you've done it.
You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.